what we need is a future like in Futurama. I was always jealous of the future they have in Futurama, and I never thought that we could have the shit future we have now. It only took a few years since the show came out at the start of the millennium for the government and tech companies to ruin our path to what should have been an awesome future in the year 3000. I wonder what happened with technology in Futurama, that it's already ridiculously outdated in 2015, but they still use it in Futurama. They have VCRs and CRT televisions that are already outdated, that are still in use in Futurama. You watch the first season of the show, made in 1999, and I'm not sure if I ever saw any characters using cell phones. They show people reading newspapers that are still printed on paper. You have robots with artificial intelligence that is so human-like that all the flaws of a human being are part of the programming, where an AI can actually be stupid like a person is. So we got to ask, why is the year 3000 more outdated than the present year in which you're watching this video? You know how there's a series of YouTube videos called Game Theory and Film Theory? Well, I've got a film theory here going on. I wonder if in the Futurama universe, at some point, the fears that I have about the current technology we're using, like smartphones and video cameras, intruding on privacy, were finally comprehended by humanity in the future. In the Futurama world, people realized that us spying on each other, using video to gather evidence to report each other's criminal mistakes to the police, is terrible for all of us in the long run. It allows the government to be our ultimate masters. So in Futurama, somehow this technology is getting suppressed, so citizens of the future, be they humans, aliens, or robots, can never be enslaved by this technology again. So everyone is free to make mistakes, and privacy continues to remain how it was in the 1990s. In Futurama, robots can still get away with pickpocketing people. You actually have criminal robots that mug people, and even human criminals who try to shoplift and can even get away with murder, despite it being the year 3000 and all the technological innovations. How is it possible? Why isn't every square inch of the planet covered in surveillance cameras in the year 3000? Like governments and private citizens want to make it happen now, in the year in which you are watching this video. In Futurama, they have a capacity to have a zillion spy drones watching everyone, and yet it's not happening in Futurama. Surveillance cameras can be everywhere, and yet that's not the case in Futurama. Robots are like people in Futurama. Shouldn't robots have the ability to record and store video of everything they see that can be used as proof of crime? Yet, why are there court trials where if a robot is a witness, the robot will speak of what happened but cannot replay what it saw unless it's a security camera robot? How is it robots don't store any video with their eyes? Why do robots need to speak to each other with words out loud when they could just share data— Aren't robots just like computers? Bender in Futurama actually once was depicted as capable of doing something like that by having an audio cassette tape pop out of his mouth. He recorded President Nixon's head making self-incriminating statements. Now, why use an audio cassette tape in the year 3000? Why is it humans have absolute confidence in speaking something in private to a robot that's incriminating without fear that this robot will upload it or stream it directly to the internet for the whole world to know, or that the robot will record it? I watched an episode of Futurama where Bender was framed for causing fires around the city by a little evil flame creature that came from the sun. No one believed Bender, this flame creature, existed at all because it showed itself to no one else but Bender. So I ask, why aren't there surveillance cameras around the Planet Express building to see this? Why isn't Bender himself a video recorder that could play back a video as proof that he's not lying about the flame creature? Futurama should be a world with no secrets and zero crime, and yet there's as much crime in New York as there was in New York in the 90s. They have robot mafia blatantly walking around that aren't being stopped by law enforcement in the future. You have police officers that don't have body cameras or spy gadgets of any kind, but are instead given batons with which to beat up people. These batons are made of energy like lightsabers, only instead of cutting you, the lightsaber baton just hurts you when you're hit with it. There is no crime predictive AI. There is no Minority Report type law enforcement. The only difference between future cops and cops of the 90s is they have a lightsaber baton that they can use for acts of excessive force during arrests. People are fucking assholes in Futurama, and they get away with it as much as they would in the 90s. They have an evil Santa Claus robot that attacks Earth every Christmas, and no one has defeated him, not even the military. Guns have become laser guns, but they still exist. They have mutants living in the sewers that don't obey any laws and nothing seems capable of stopping them. How is it that in the year 3000, where they can fly to any planet in the universe within a few hours, they don't have the technology we do designed to oppress people, like technology like this thing? Hardly any security cameras, robots don't have any Wi-Fi installed in them, or capability to access the internet or videotape you. There is no DVDs or Blu-rays. Is it possible that Futurama society is actually more logical than we are, and they simply found a way to delete from existence any concept of modern communication technology we now use in the present year? Because those people are actually sane, unlike the fucktards who use such a things as Nest cams and next door services? Because no one wanted to live in a 24/7 surveillance society enforced by machines? A rational person who envisions a future wants to be able to fly in a spaceship to other planets and maybe have a robot for a friend, but at the same time a rational person also wants to be able to walk down a city street with the same privacy they would have in the 1990s and perhaps be able to mug someone or get in a fight and have a fair chance of getting away with it. In the 1950s, the government successfully concealed from the public the test of a Castle Bravo atomic bomb. In the present year, you can't even conceal a schoolyard fight from scrutiny by the entire world and the police because of cell phone cameras. We have to strive toward a Futurama future. And the millennium has hardly started, and already we strayed from the path to that wonderful future into some horrid Minority Report / 1984 surveillance society, and everyone is praising it. All technological development is now focused on tracking people and instantly identifying everyone, so no fake alibi can ever work. And you can't even go into a store and later lie that you never were there because of security cameras. We're moving toward a cashless society where all transactions are electronic, so there can be further control over people. In Futurama, they still use physical cash. The only technological innovation to affect cash is the picture of the president on the bills is animated and can now move and talk to you because of artificial intelligence. But even so, I don't believe the talking dollar bill is capable of betraying your privacy. You people have fucked up the world. The next time a kid gets in a school fight and it's recorded on camera as evidence, so there is no way to spin and lie later on, that kid should ask themselves, would this have happened to me in the 1980s? No. No one would have recorded this as evidence in the 1980s, and I could have lied my way out of it and downplayed everything. So why don't I get that privilege now because I live in the present year? That's when people must rise up and demand that this shit stops. Futurama's reality is great because somehow they strangled the spying technology that flourishes now. They strangled it so much that they even went back to VHS tapes. That's how frightening present reality must have been to the people of Futurama that they even went back to VHS tapes. Currently, people are becoming more and more arrogant. In the 90s, when a murder happened, people cried for justice. They wanted the murderer put away after the fact. In the present day, I hear talk show radio hosts who complain about why the crime wasn't prevented to begin with. It's not about justice anymore after the fact. Now it's an arrogant demand that nothing bad should happen in the first place. These people are never fucking satisfied. They're never satisfied with police work. It's never good enough. They're not satisfied criminals go to jail after the fact. They now want so criminals don't ever commit crime to begin with. They're not satisfied with how things were just 30 years ago. Now they see it as necessary to have a bunch of security cameras on their front porches transmitting live feeds to the internet 24/7 into services like Nextdoor. The government is doing everything it can to get these childish, bitching, unsatisfied citizens more and more of what they demand until all privacy is stamped out. They will never stop demanding. They will want mind-reading technology if it means preventing some murder or burglary. People like that need to be forcibly dumped in the middle of fucking Syria and made to fend for themselves. Well, that's my theory about Futurama. But it's just a theory, a game theory. I don't know why instead of a Futurama future, people want a fucking Minority Report / 1984 future because they feel it will make them more safe from bad guys giving them any boo-boos. All technology is a bridge to some new, more fucked up technology. As indicated in Back to the Future, in the 80s, people thought fax machines would be permanent. And they're laughably outdated now. So does that mean sometime in the future we'll be looking at a smartphone as a silly, outdated thing? Like looking back at a fax machine now? I think they actually used fax machines in Futurama, but I could be wrong. The only intrusive thing I saw them use in Futurama is a career chip implanted in a person's hand where artificial intelligence decides the best job they're suited for, and they can work nowhere else, however. But I'm pretty sure that has been violated many times and no one really cared.